more, we turn to a former official in the U.S. Trade Representative's office, Steve Gill. Steve, thanks for joining us from Nashville.
Thanks, Scotty.
Okay, I'm scratching my head here. I thought we were close to a deal. But once again, President Trump goes to Twitter, says he's going to raise tariffs by 25% on Friday. 100-member delegation lands here in D.C. from China on Wednesday. What is President Trump's strategy?
Well, I think this may be an example of President Trump, the art of the deal, playing a little good cop, bad cop. This deal has slowed down. I think by all accounts it was on the verge of reaching conclusion. They were down to the details of what to put into the words in the document rather than still trying to negotiate major deal points. And yet it has not been making progress. And so you have Mnuchin, the Treasury Secretary, and Lighthizer, the U.S. Trade Representative, who I think are the good cops. And now they've got President Trump playing the bad cop so that they can go to the Chinese and say, look, we need to get this deal done because our boss is crazy. He's going to blow the whole thing up. Let's do the deal.
Okay, so then I have to ask you, Steve, you've been around, not talking about your age, but you've been around D.C. and these things before. Is this unexpected, or is this a different way? Is this how it always happens?
Well, I think what's happened here is that they literally were into the final terms. The big terms had been negotiated. They were literally negotiating the wording of the document that would be moving ahead this trade deal. And I think President Trump is rightly very frustrated that all of a sudden the Chinese, by all accounts, were starting to put things that had been negotiated and concluded and had even been put into text. They were trying to put those back on the table to renegotiate them. And just in basic negotiation 101, when you're out negotiating to purchase a car and you've reached the price and you've reached the interest rate and you've agreed that they're going to give you one oil change every 2 months, and then all of a sudden they come in and start trying to change the oil change deal after you've already negotiated it, a lot of people walk away from the deal at that point, and that's when you get the salesperson chasing you down the parking lot to say, come back, we're ready to do the deal we agreed to. And I think that's what President Trump's hope is. The question is whether or not this will actually get the deal done now or whether it will blow it up.
Well, and we're talking about things that possibly could have happened, and I don't expect you to know everything going on behind the scenes, but you just mentioned there's also probably some give and take. But one thing China did do is they came out and just said that they will not take part in trilateral nuclear talks with Russia. Is this a smart move on China's part, and is it going to have any effect on this trade deal since we're right here on the final stretch?
I think it really is a separate deal. You had President Trump and Putin talk earlier this week and talked about trying to get together and reinitiate some denuclearization efforts between the U.S. and Russia. And I think they talked about we ought to try to bring China in at some point as well, probably in part to make sure that they're denuclearizing the North Korean peninsula. And China has rebuffed that. It's not really a part of the trade deal, and it was kind of an add-on to what President Trump and President Putin were talking about. I think that is a down-the-road eventuality. I think you will see the U.S. and Russia start to negotiate on the nuclear arms agreements. And China was very clear that they are not really a big player in the nuclear arena, that Russia and the U.S. are the biggest players. And once they get a deal, then they can talk.
Okay, well, we will have you back on to continue talking because obviously we have a big week ahead of us and a timeline on Friday. Are you optimistic? Will we have a deal on Friday?
I wouldn't make any bets at this point. This has made it, I think, less likely that a deal can be reached, but I think it is the hope that this will force a deal to finally come to conclusion rather than this sort of talk, blah, 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 as it seems to have been sort of on an endless cycle.
Well, I don't know if you'd ever want to place any bets on anything that has to do with this administration, and that's what makes it quite interesting day to day in this
business. And I don't know how
business.
blah, blah, blah translates in Chinese either, so I'm sure that'll create controversy too.
I'm sure they'll find something, or at least put it on Twitter. Thank you so much, Steve.
Thanks.